Hello everyone, so great to see you again. It's Judy from Coffee, Cookies, and Books, and what we're going to talk about today is everything I read and didn't read in the month of April. I know, that was a little bit cryptic, right? Yes, because there were a number of books that I did not read that had been pulled on my TBR, and we will talk about those in a minute. What I want to do is just want to go over all of my challenges. I also did want to mention that I am participating in Escape the Readathon by Books with Lexi. I will link it all below. And so I just want to mention that if anybody's interested in joining, I am on Team Scientist. So would love it if you could join and add yourselves to the team. Doesn't matter. It started May 1st. Even if you join it halfway through the month and you just participate towards the end, doesn't really matter as long as you have fun. Without further ado, let's talk about first how many books I actually read. I read technically 10, but I did also have one DNF that I read 250 something pages. So I basically read 11, but we'll talk about that one DNF in a bit. I had 1 2.5 star, 1 3 star, 2 3.5 stars, 1 4 star, 2 4.5, 2 5 stars. So while I didn't have as strong a reading month as I did in March, I still had what I would say is a good reading month because I had nothing under the halfway point, which was 2.5 stars. But I will say that when we get to that 2.5 star one, which we will talk about probably shortly, it was the most disappointing, right? But we'll talk about that when it comes up. So that was what I had for my reads. Then I had my challenges that I have that I do every month. So let's start with the Mystery Thriller Bingo Challenge, which is from Alexis Fully Booked. And I have been doing this challenge since the beginning of the year, and I almost have bingo. Okay, so I'm going to throw it up, and then I'll throw up on the other side the prompts so that you can see what's underneath and what I filled in. So the first one is on the first line is Coffin Moon, and I put that in under revenge because it is very much a revenge-driven horror plot. The next one would be Kiss Cut, which is the third line down, and I put that in for missing person because part of the plot did involve a missing girl, young girl. Then the last one that I put in would be the next line down, the fourth one, and the only one on that line, which is isolated setting, and that is because The Haunting of Payne's Hollow is very much an isolated setting, and we'll chit-chat about that. So you can see I literally either need small town or friend recommendation to complete my bingo, because I am only going to play this until I have a line, not a full card. Okay, and that was my whole plan from the beginning on this, is I did not want something that was going to take me through the whole year, because the next challenge is going to take me through the whole year. So I'm almost done. And I think that the books that I have on my next TBR may do it, but we haven't even finished half the year, and I almost have my bingo. So pretty happy about that. So then the next ones we're going to talk about are the 2 buzzword challenges. So I'll put one up, one on each side. The buzzword reading challenge, which is the pink one, and the buzzword cover challenge, which is kind of the dark purpley one. Okay. So what I picked for that is, so I am ignoring the months. I am strictly only using the prompts, and I am filling 1 per month. So my hope is that I'm going to find a book for every prompt all the way to the end of the year, but I cannot fill more than 1 per month. So that's kind of my own rule. And that is because I am skipping the months. So just like if you were following the months, you would only be putting one per month, right? You'd probably be planning a little bit more ahead, but yeah. So what I did pick was for the Buzzword Reading Challenge, I chose Operation Bounce House as an instructional title. So I don't know that it's not a how-to, but it's Operation Bounce House because it was like kind of the name of the whole military operation in the book. So I put that one in there. I don't know if that's cheating, but I thought it fit it fine. And then for the cover challenge, I put in under border a drop of corruption because not only does the slipcover have a border on the front, but when I take it off of my aardvark collection, it has an embossed border on the inside cover as well. So I thought that fit perfect because it is a cover challenge on the second one. Okay, so that's Buzzword. Got that one down. It's good to go. So then we're going to talk about my series challenge. So for my series challenge, I read everything that I had planned. So on one side, you're seeing the completed along with the star ratings. And on the second side, what you're seeing is all of the books that I now have planned for May that were announced in my May TBR. So for the month of May is The Right Move and then Juniper Hill and A Faint Cold Fear. So I have those in here. I do have, like, my way of looking at it is I am almost halfway through. So the idea behind the series challenge is that I complete 36 books that are part of series that I started previous to 2026. Okay, so none of the series that I start this year can be used on this challenge. So I just wanted to say that because I think that that's important as well. Okay, so the idea is trying to finish and complete more series. That was the idea behind it. Okay, and then the last one that we're going to look at is my Goodreads Choice Challenge. And I'm doing a pretty good job on this so far. As you can see, I have completed the horror category. It is done. I don't have anything left in that category. And the only category that I haven't chosen anything in so far is romantasy. And that's just a fluke because I do the spinner wheel, right? And for some reason, those ones have not come up. Not that I'm, Accomplice to the Villain, I would have had to have read Apprentice to the Villain first, which I did because that actually came up in another challenge, and that was part of came on my series list, so I could put it on there. But I have to read it now for this challenge, which I will do. But yeah, I have pretty much completed, I would say, almost half of that. So really, really happy with how all of my challenges have gone. Okay, so I think we are ready to get on to talking about the books that I did or didn't read. How about we talk about what I didn't read and my DNF? Okay, so we're going to just do a quick run through the books that I did not get to. And I had 4 because I had a rather large TBR for April. So we have Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance. So this is a memoir, that kind of thing, of him growing up. That one. Corrupt by Penelope Douglas, which I had hoped to really get to it because it's romance that I wanted to read, but dark romance, didn't get to that one. One Dark Window and Heavenly Bodies. So 2 fantasy books that I just did not have time to get to, these 2. So it is what it is. I would have really liked to have gotten to them, but they just simply go back into my TBR pile to potentially be pulled at another time. Now, the way my rules work is if a book gets pulled 3 times, okay, then it has to get read on the 3rd pull. So none of these have been pulled before, so they're on pull 1 at this point. Usually I remember what's been pulled before, and it's like, oh, and if it's been pulled multiple times, I remember it's been pulled multiple times. So, okay, so now we're going to have the DNF, which is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I read up to page 259, I think. This is a 1010, 1001. It's a 1,000-page book. Okay. And when you're 250 pages in and that book has still not grabbed you, and I mean either the story hasn't grabbed me or the characters have not grabbed me, then, yeah, I think I'm done. So I am going to unhaul this, unfortunately. Now I do have his Mistborn trilogy, and everyone has said that that is completely very different feeling a little bit to this. It is earlier work than this one. I will try it because I did get that. I got that off of Book Outlet, and I got the trio together, the 3 together. So I'll give them a try. Whenever it comes up in my game, I'll try reading. I know that the first book has come up once previously, and I didn't get to it. But because I am unhauling this one, if it does come up again the next time, I am going to really make an effort to try and read that, because his writing just might not be for me. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, yeah, I couldn't connect with anything in the book, most especially the characters. And I don't know if it's because we were jumping around so much through it that it was very hard. Like, there was only one character I kind of liked, and there was so little of him through it that it was like, yeah, I just couldn't connect with anything. Anyway, sad, but yeah, I'm going to get rid of this one. It is what it is. I got it off Book Outlet. As you can tell, it's got the black dot. So, no big deal. Wasn't super expensive, but I had been hoping that I was going to like it, but I'm glad I didn't buy anything else to go with it, because I would have been disappointed if I had read that. Okay, so that's it for everything that I did not read and my DNF. So now what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the 4 books that I had in my previous review video, and I'm just going to go over those really quick. Okay, so I don't want to take a whole lot of time because these have already been reviewed, but we'll do them, I think, in the order I read them. I think I will link the previous review below. That was a week or 2 ago. So, because these were the first books I read in the month. First one was Coffin Moon by Keith Rawson. So this is a revenge story, and it's about, it takes place in, was it 1975? I think, yes, 1975, Portland, Oregon. And it's about a man who, he's a Vietnam veteran, and he has come home, and he's trying to learn to live with his PTSD, because he does have that. And him and his wife have to take in his wife's sister's 13-year-old daughter because of something that happened in their family. So it's the 3 of them, and then there is his wife's parents. So those are that's kind of the family dynamic. And then a vampire ends up coming into play, and Dwayne and the niece go after him. Okay, and that's what this is. I gave this 3.5, and I enjoyed the story, but There were certain things about it that I didn't like. And that's all discussed in the review. I'm not going to go over it. But I mean, I like Keith Rasmussen's writing. I do have another book by him, Fever House, I think. And we'll look forward to reading it. But that was that one. Okay, the next one that was in the same video is The Haunting of Payne's Hollow. This is Samantha, and she is the only living relative of this grandfather who has passed away. Her mom, who of course is not his daughter, it was her father that was his son. Her mom is in a home because her mom has early onset dementia. And so Sam's grandfather wants to leave her this property in Payne's Hollow, but she has to go and stay there for 30 days. And the idea is that somebody's willing to buy this. It's huge. This is like 100 acres, something like that. She'll get $10 million because a developer wants to buy it. And she needs that money to take care of her mother, is what it comes down to. So she goes back to a place where she saw her father burying a dead boy, and her father then ended up unaliving himself. And that's kind of where the story goes. So it is a bit of self-exploration. I think it was a little bit brutal in certain parts of it. I mean, I gave it 4 stars, so I did really like it, but I thought that a little bit of the story itself was a bit fantastical, as opposed to being kind of like a ghost horror that some of it just kind of was a little much. So I think that was what my biggest issue with it. But you can see my full review, okay, in the other video, because I don't want to talk too much about it. Yeah, one of my 5 stars. Yeah. No, what did I have? No, I actually had 3 5 stars. Yeah, I had 3 because of this one and the next one that were both in the same video. They were 2 5-star reads. This is Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman, and this is like a sci-fi military experiment gone wrong that Earth is trying to wipe these people out, okay? So it's an Earth experiment that went to another planet. They developed their own world, like their life on this planet, and now Earth is playing the bad guy. And it was good, okay? And it's about these young people that are left to defend it because of something that's happened on the planet that's pretty much left just an older generation and a younger generation. There's kind of nobody in between. There's a reason for that too. That was this. Oh my God, it was so good. I liked this so much that I ordered the Broken Binding special edition because it is a spectacular book. So I can't wait to get it, and I will definitely unwrap that as soon as I get it because, yeah, it's crazy. And then the last one that was in that video is A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the second book in the Anna and Din mystery series, and this just kind of takes Anna and Din into a different environment. And there is a case they have to solve. And I love this world. I love the world they're in because it's a fantastical world, completely made up. Anna and Din are unique individuals. Part of that is because they have been altered in a sense. And this is by substances that they're altered. But their ability to break the case and figure out what went, yeah, this is crazy. It was so good. But I liked A Tainted Cup as well. The first book, that was also excellent. So I actually really like Robert Jackson Bennett's writing. And the one thing I liked about this book more than the second book is I liked Anna and Din more, way more in this book than the second. I think in the first book, I liked just how the whole story kind of unfolded. But in this particular book, it was Anna and Din that really did it for me. So, love that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to everything else that I read, and we're going to do my full reviews on that. All right, so we're going to talk about now everything else that I read for the month of April. And I'm going to begin with the book that I liked the least and the one that was the biggest disappointment for me. And I actually just finished it literally yesterday, which is the last day of April. I'm filming this on the 1st. And that is City of Souls and Sinners by Kayla Edwards. This is book 2 in the House of the Devils. And I gave this 2.5 stars. I don't even know if it might have even been 2-star. It just didn't work for me. Now, I can't say too much because it is a continuation of the first book, but it does basically pick up very shortly after the events at the end of the first book, which came to a heavy-duty climax at the end of that. And you have the same characters. So you have Darian and you have Lauren. And they're your 2 main characters, but there are multiple viewpoints through the book. This particular book, it had a bit to do with what was going on at the beginning, but then I'm like, I kind of couldn't figure out why these particular people wanted this thing to occur, because it would have basically just been a bloodbath, right? I don't know if that's a spoiler or not, but it was just completely ridiculous. The other thing that was a bit ridiculous to me, in the first book, Darian and Lauren, by the end of the book, they're together. They like each other, whatever. They're young. He's like, I think he's 24. She is 19, 20, somewhere in around there. And, you know, they're doing their thing, whatever. And I actually liked the 2 of them. I didn't like them in this book, okay? They became almost insufferable in this book, and that was difficult and also made it more difficult because there were multiple plot lines flowing through the book, which she did the same thing in the first book, but it just seemed to flow in together better. Or maybe it was because it was the first book that worked. I don't know. It didn't work in this book. And at the very end, it just seemed to be, instead of coming to a climax that had this natural build to it, which I felt the first book had, and which was something that, you know, it's been compared to Crescent City. It does have a very similar feel to it. And in the first book in Crescent City, that final climax scene was incredibly well written. Fantastic. And I would say that the first of the House of Devils series was pretty darn good. Okay. And I liked it. Now, I will say I have the 3rd book, and because I have it, I will read it. But I'm going to be perfectly frank in that if I don't like the 3rd book, like if I feel the same way going into that 3rd book and I don't like it, then I won't continue. Because this is supposed to be like a 6-7 book series. And I'm like, if it's 6-7 books like this, I won't continue the series. It's really a shame because the first book was so strong, in my opinion. And this book just was not. So the issue for me with that, it lacked in how the plot was building, and it lacked in how the characters built. The other thing that I hated in this book is, even though it's realistic because of their ages, like literally right at the very beginning, they're getting it on in his car. Right at the very beginning, you get a sex scene. Okay. And not just like they would drop and do it wherever. Okay. Which is kind of realistic for people their age. You know, I was that age at one point. Okay. You might not believe it now, but I was that age at one point. So I do get that. But it was just like, it was like a story written around them having sex. And I don't like that because the first book was not like that. Okay. So it just, yeah, it kind of lost me. I will say that the other characters, which were more of a general introduction in the first book, I liked a lot better in this book. So there were several characters because there are other, Darian and Loren are not the only 2 points of views that you get. You get some points of view from some of the other guys that are part of the Devil's team. So you do get them as well. And I enjoy those points of views. And I actually liked them better in this book than I did Darian and Loren. They were they were insufferable. They were, yeah. And they were like, every time they turned around, I need you, baby. Every time he called her baby, I rolled my eyes. And, oh, I love you. And, oh, I want you. And, oh my God. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So that's that one. And yeah, so you can take it to the bank. I will read the third one. I have it sitting on my shelf. It's going to go on my cards. Okay. Actually, it's going to go on my series spinner wheel because it was a series I started previous to 2026. So the next one in the series is going to go on the wheel. Okay. And it does also go in the cards. So it could come up either way. And it'll get read this year because I just want to get it done and see if I am going to continue. Because I did not buy the fourth book when it came out. I wanted to wait and see, and I'm glad I didn't buy it. So, okay. So I'm just popping this little section in because I forgot a book. And the only reason I forgot it is because it's the only ebook that I read. But I wanted to pop it in the right spot. It is Eat, Drink, and Be Witchy by Lily Harper Hart. And it is, I think it's book 3 in a collection of 14 books in total. And it's not very long. Most of her books are not. They're around the 2 to 225 page mark, sort of in around there. This one was 216. And it is a cozy paranormal mystery romance. And I know it sounds like she's trying to do a lot in the series, but it actually works fine. Now, in this case, in this one, I gave it 3 stars. I think the previous 2 have been around the 3.5 mark, which is totally fine for a quick cozy mystery. I do like them. I enjoy them, but they are clearly not, 5-star reads. In this particular case, you have the main character who is Hallie. And Hallie, in the very first book, she is run over by a crazy person in a golf cart, okay? And this person is the owner of the resort. It's on the beach in St. Petersburg, Florida. So that's where everything is located. So it's located in a very typical environment, it's today, so it's very urban, that kind of thing. And so she negotiates, because of the accident, she's able to negotiate with him that she wants to have a bar on the beach, and he can't interfere with it, but it is part of the resort, sort of. And so she gets the customers from there. So it's really kind of an interesting dynamic, which I love, okay? And Hallie she can be snarky. She's always got a comeback, so she can actually deal with people who drink alcohol on their vacations, you know, like that kind of thing. So now Hallie is a witch, okay? And the other main character, who is the love interest, is Grayson, and Grayson is a wolf shifter. So you have all kinds of paranormal in this. You have a vampire who he pops in from time to time and saves the day, sort of, you know. Yeah, you have all kinds of different elements of paranormal, but they kind of just casually pop in and out. It's a very interesting way that she's written them. She writes them as kind of normal. Now, Grayson is not, he doesn't have a pack, and that's because I think he was kicked out of his pack, but he's in constant contact with his brother, doesn't talk to his parents, but he's in contact with his brother. Now, Lily, on the other hand, she is close to her family, who are a bunch of wackadoodles. Okay. Like the point where Gray met her father was in this book. Hilarious. Absolutely loved it. So it was like it has a lot of comical elements in it as well. And I think she does a really good job with that. So in this particular story, they are, we have a unfortunate incident with one of the people who's staying at the hotel in her room. Okay. And they find her, and this is a person who had been making a fuss down at the bar at one point. So Hallie knew who she was, and right away, the detective who was there is somebody that they know and who also knows about the whole paranormal thing, everything, because not everybody does, okay? Not all the humans do, but he knows, and he knows Grayson, and Grayson is a private investigator who helps him with these cases, and he needed Grayson brought in right away because there was something weird about this woman's body. So it kind of kicks off from there, and this is also the first book where Grayson and Hallie are admitting they like each other. Okay, so it's been leading up to this, but this is the first sort of point. You know, you're in book 3, and now they're finally kind of getting close. So it has been a slow lead into it, and they've kind of jumped in, and Gray is in probably 1,000%, and Hallie is kind of maybe at your 90% mark, sort of, you know? So that's where that's at. And there is sort of another underlying thing that's been happening that kind of built up, especially into book 2, and the prologue sort of starts with these devious people, and it makes you think that, you know, how things are going to go, but they don't always go that way, you know. So I really liked that, and you know, I've already popped in the next book into my Kindle Unlimited, because these are the kind of books that, you know, like I'll grab it towards the end of the month, which I kind of did with this one, and I'll just read it on my Kindle, lights out, in bed, and it doesn't take long, a couple of evenings and it's done, you know, like an hour here and an hour there, because they're very short reads and very quick reads. So just wanted to add that one in because I did forget it, and that's it for this video. Then the next one is A Promise of Fire by Amanda Boucher, and this I gave 3.5 stars. It is the first book in a series. Now, it's the Kingmaker Chronicles. This is, I think, kind of, the idea is that there's 5 books in total, but it's 3 different couples, I think, if I'm not mistaken, when I read through. So the first 2 books is about Cat and Griffin, okay? And I I actually quite liked the story. This story was written in, hold on one second, it was quite some time ago, 2016. So this is 10 years old, okay? And I thought it held up pretty good. Now, Griffin was a tiny bit insufferable at the beginning of the book. So basically, you have Kat, and she is working at a circus, and she is like a trousseau, okay? So she's basically like, you know, reading palms, doing that kind of thing. And she works at a circus that has all kinds of weird people. Like it has like Cerberus, and which we're talking Cerberus, which was the three-headed dog that Hades had. So that was one of the creatures at the circus. So this is actually loosely based on Greek mythology, which I actually really liked that because I like Greek mythology. And this world has multiple different kingdoms. It's hard to, I'm going to see if it's, yes, okay. So this is Thalria, okay, which is your general breakdown. And then you have all of the different kingdoms. So there is Physa, Tarva, Sinta, and then up here is the Ice Plains. So there, and then Mount Olympus is up here. Okay, so obviously very much Greek oriented. Now, the area that Griffin is associated with is Sinta, and his family has just taken over Sinta. Basically, they came in and they got rid of the people that were ruling it, who were quite cruel, okay? And they have taken over. And Griffin's sister is now what they call the alpha. So instead of saying king or queen, it's alpha. And an alpha can be a male or a female. And in this case, it is his sister, Egeria. So Griffin is the beta, which is kind of the second in line, and he heads and controls the army, essentially. But he has a huge family, huge. Now, what he needs Kat for is because Kat has these skills. I don't even know how to describe it. She is known as a kingmaker, but it's all related back to magic in a sense, okay? And her magic comes from somewhere, but you don't actually find out the details of that in this book because it goes into it like, you know, what, like you see how she feeds on it from magic abilities. She can actually take magic abilities and then she can use them, okay? So that's one of her strengths. But the other thing is that she's from Physa, and she has the knowledge of royalty. So he wants her to basically teach them, his sisters and all of them, how to deal with royalty. So there's a lot of that goes into this, but essentially he kidnaps her. Okay. And in the beginning, they're kind of both a little bit insufferable. Him, because he's like basically dragging her against her will. He's using like this magic rope. This is right at the beginning, right? So he kidnaps her and he's using this magic rope, and she's pissed because he kidnapped, and he can't, he's like, well, but you're going to be part of our team. And it's like, yeah, but dude, you kidnapped her, okay? Like, she's pissed. And she has a right to be, because he kidnapped her. And so it's like arguing with a block of cement, you know? So there were, like, that was kind of how it was through the first half of the book. And then it kind of changed, and their relationship changed. So I thought it was pretty good. I am actually, I buddy read this with my friend Amanda. Amanda Boucher was author, but also Amanda from Amanda's Booktopia. Her and I buddy read it together. I think she gave it 3 stars. I gave it 3.5. We're both continuing on to the next book because we want to know what happens, you know? And like it all comes down to she has some protection, and her protection comes from like Poseidon and Hades and maybe Zeus. Yeah. So that's part of where the whole Greek mythology comes into it a bit. But throughout, you get characters and you get monsters and things like that that very much remind you also of Greek mythology. So I thought that was really great. Very, very good. I mean, I had a comment on one of my videos. I think it was my first quarter wrap up. And she made a comment which I actually think is valid and which is easier to me than actually tabbing things, because I never remember what page I tabbed or anything like that, is writing down the quotes, because this one, they had great one-liners. She had great one-liners in this, okay? And Kat had a lot of attitude and she was funny, but like zippy, and snarky. And I freaking loved that, okay? I loved Kat a lot. Loved her attitude. So I will be reading the next one. I just have to get the next one. I got this one off Book Outlet. It's like a slightly damaged copy, which normally you don't get damaged copies from Book Outlet. Normally they're like in pretty good shape, but they don't actually have the next one in the series. So I'm like, wow, we shall see. Okay, next is Love Arranged by Lauren Asher. And this is the third and final book in the Lakefront Billionaires series. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Not quite as much as the second book. The second book, I just really loved. It was with Rafe and Ellie, and like it just was a beautiful story. This one I did also really like. So, and I had a feeling that I might like it because I really previously liked Lorenzo and Lily's characters when they were written in the first 2 books, okay? But I didn't know for sure how she was going to make Lorenzo likable, because essentially leading up to this book, he was not the most likable guy, right? And then Lily, of course, everybody in the town loves Lily. So I'm like, how is she going to make this work? Because he is trying to be elected mayor, okay? And Lily is trying to save her parents' flower shop from being destroyed by the people who are currently in as mayor. And that is where... And those are people that Lorenzo is kind of trying to get revenge on the one guy, sort of, by taking away their power, because they're like one of these families that, thinks that they're God's gift to the town, okay? So that's sort of where that's at, and I really liked their interaction, but it starts off with, I guess, what you would call sort of a misunderstanding at the very beginning, because Lorenzo is trying to be more likable, and he thinks that dating somebody in the town who people will look at him and think, oh, well, somebody actually likes him. I mean, the whole scheme, it was a scheme, but it actually by accident kind of worked, because what happened was he sort of helped Lily with something, and people witnessed this, and people started saying, well, maybe he's not such a bad guy. And Lily was like, well, maybe we can help each other here, because if we can get rid of these other guys, we can save my parents' flower shop. So there was like sort of that we can do something for each other. And in between that, these two people like each other. Okay. But he had a lot of baggage, okay, emotional baggage that he had to deal with. I would say that this was an emotional story for him. Like, he was not your perfect main male character at all, okay? Which I think I liked that a lot, because I don't think you get that a lot in a lot of romance novels. In a lot of romance novels, like, the guy is like this big, strong dude and all this stuff like that. And in this one, it's like, yeah, he had a lot of flaws. He had to come to terms with a lot of those things throughout the book. I don't want to say too much because it would totally give it away. And the thing is that leading up to it, you don't see that. You see him as a pretty strong character, right? But as soon as you get in here, you realize that there's a lot more going on. And yeah, so I thought it was fabulous. I thought she did a beautiful job with it. And I can honestly say that based on this, it's like, I have not read the series that was previous to this one. It was another billionaire series. It's another 3-book. But I do have it, and now I want to read it all that much more. But this finishes a series, so I can say this series is done. And overall, it's like the first book was, I think, a 2.5, and middle book was 5 stars, and that was 4.5. So she like nailed it on the last 2. Yeah, I think the reason that the first book was 2.5 was I didn't really care for the main character and the female main characters, but I liked everybody else. And it turns out that everybody else was in the second book and the third book. So it worked for me. And I liked her writing just fine. So really enjoyed that. Okay, next one is Scythe and Sparrow by Bryn Weaver. And this is the 3rd and final book in the Runes trilogy series, which is like Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark. And this is the last brother, right? And it's Dr. Fian Kane and then motorcycle performer Rose Evans, okay? Rose is a circus performer, and it starts off with her at the circus, okay? And she witnesses this guy, husband, mistreating his wife. And it's clearly obvious that there is some sort of strain in their relationship in not a good way, okay? So Rose finds out where they are, where they live, and she goes after him. But I don't know if she necessarily planned it to go the way that it ended up going. But what happened was she ended up in a physical fight with this guy, and he broke her leg. And so how she managed to get back on her bike, she didn't get far, like she didn't get away, but she got enough away that she ended up at the medical clinic of the doctor, okay? And it kind of goes from there with their relationship. So he finds her, and then for some unknown reason, and like I think he feels a connection with her. It's almost like he feels responsible for her, like he takes her to the hospital, and essentially she's in a cast because this guy broke a leg. He has her come to his house to recuperate. Now, nothing sexual, anything like that. It actually took a good bit to kind of get to that point. And this book actually spanned a longer period with them together, like together and apart. I actually liked how the whole relationship developed in this one. I would say that of the 3 books, this one was my favorite. I liked the 2 characters the best out of all 3 books. I thought that the way that she finished it off was hilarious and comical and fun. And that was the thing too, like this still had, while it had a pretty serious side to what Rose was doing, okay, because she was doing something other than her circus performer job that had to do with women that were trying to leave the men they were with for reasons. But she still had, she had a great sense of humor. She had a great attitude. She was a lot of fun. She rode a motorcycle for her. Like she did like the wheel, you know, like, I don't know if that wheel is on here. No, it isn't. But you know, like the wheel of death. So like where you ride the motorcycle upside down. That's what she would do. So she was basically a stunt rider. Okay. And she told fortunes. So she kind of did both things, which I think was kind of funny because this is like, they're similar to, which book was it? One of the other books where, Promise of Fire. She was also a fortune teller. So it was like I read 2 books like that. But yeah, it was really good. I can't, again, you know, I wish I had actually written down some of the quotes on some of the comment because they were funny together. Because he's super serious, you know, like very, very serious. And he's super trying not to be like his brothers who are murderous. Okay. But he protects her. So he has a protective side. He very much wants to protect his brothers. I think he's the baby out of the 3 boys. I think he's the youngest, if I remember correctly. It was good. I really liked it, and I just am a little sad that it's done, but it does actually leave you with the name of the person that I think is the first person in the next trilogy that she's got, which I have not read. I wanted to finish this one first before I stepped into the next one, and yeah, this was like just so good. You know, it was a lot of fun. And that's another series done. Okay? Done. Love that. And the last book is Kiss Cut by Karen Slaughter. So this is the 2nd book in the Grant County series. And I think this is one of her older ones, one of her first original series. And I kind of wanted to start there and work my way forward because this leads into the Will Trent series, which is a longer series. So I want to do this one first. I actually have the next one, A Faint Cold Fear, is on my May TBR, and it is going to be the first book I read in May. So very much looking forward to it. This starts with a situation where they're at the local town roller rink, and a young girl who turns out she is, I think she's 13, is holding a gun on another kid, a boy. And it just so happens that Jeffrey Tolliver, who's the chief of police, he is there, and he calls in help, and he has his gun with him, and he basically tries to get her to stop, and it ends with tragedy. Young girl doesn't make it, and it's very sad, but an investigation starts from there. Now, his ex-wife, Sarah, she is the local town pediatrician, but she's also the county coroner, so she has to do the autopsy, and she finds some unusual things about this young girl that are not good at all, okay? And of course, that means that they have to investigate these things. And it jumps off from that point. the other thing is like Sarah and Jeffrey. So Sarah and Jeffrey are kind of your two main characters through this. There are other characters that are kind of like your background characters, but there's Lena, who is one of the officers that works for Jeffrey. She has a point of view in this too, and her point of view is kind of very important to a certain aspect of the story and how it evolves. But what ends up happening is you also then, as a result of this, end up with a missing 13-year-old who was friends with this other girl from the beginning of the book. So they're trying to find her. They're trying to figure out why her brother acted the way he did. They're essentially, the whole book evolves into something that I was not expecting at all. Okay, like again, it was pretty brutal. And I mean, anything that involves kids is brutal, right? Like, it's hard to imagine that these are 13-year-olds and this is happening with 13-year-olds, you know? So I had a really rough time with that. But I think that that Karen Slaughter's writing tends to be very raw and very gritty, okay, and very emotional, all right? And then what you also have in behind the actual story of these kids is you have the family drama. And there is family drama going on behind the scenes with Sarah and her sister and, you know, Sarah's parents, and then Lena and her relationships, okay, and Jeffrey and his relationships. Yeah, so you have all that kind of going on, which I like that because that is always something I appreciate in police procedurals, because I think that you can connect a lot more as the series goes on because you know these main characters, these key characters, and you can feel a lot more for them as it goes through. So as you're reading it, and you can feel and remember what happened in the previous book and how their relationships develop. Like, one of the key things is that Jeffrey and Sarah are divorced, okay? And they're divorced because he cheated. And in the first book, I think it's 10 years from when they divorced. So they've been apart quite some time. But they are trying again, okay? And that comes more to light. It starts a little bit in the first book, and it comes more to light in this book. So it'll be interesting to see where even that goes, that relationship or that building of a new relationship in the next book. So that's it for that. So that's all of them. That's everything that I read in the month of April. I had to think about it because, you know, I keep thinking April, May. Well, May is the next one, so April was the last one. All right. Okay, so that's all of my books. That is the 10 books that I read and the one that I DNF'd. And if you've got any comments for me, I would love to hear. Yeah, if you want to see those first 4 reviews, I think those first 4 reviews are usually a little bit more in depth, so you can see that in the previous video. Again, I will link that below for you. And yeah, so that's all for this video. And I guess we will see you in the next one. Not sure what that'll be. Maybe the June releases video. That's probably what'll be up next. All right, that's it for now, and we'll see you next time around.